going to be reviewing the grant applications. There's really not just too much to review on those anymore. Things are pretty well cut and dried. But again, last year's X-Factor was $27, and what, 27 now, 36 cents, I believe, something like that. So again, 36 cents. So again, that's probably going to be pretty similar. 33% of the ag ed line item, $593,000, about $600,000 goes into incentive funding. So again, sometimes your teachers, you yourself, like to know that as well. The average grant allocation last year was just under $2,000, so $1,915 as well. 117 points on the X Factor. Everybody achieved the average, which was, or I should say, average is 70 or 60%. So 70 is 70 out of 117, so 60% as far as what everyone achieved. You might have noticed as far as the male and female ratio, female ag teachers continue to grow, up 3% and down 3% for male teachers. So again, those same type of things are happening as far as your ag education students and so on as well. One thing that we are looking at, again, it was discussed a while back as far as doing something with the biological science applications and ag curriculum. So we will be asking a few teachers from each district to attend a meeting on September 9th, probably in Springfield, to discuss where do we want to go from here. Do we want to sunset biological science applications today, physical science applications today? We want to leave that. We want to improve, especially going along with the next generation science standards. So that's kind of up in the air right now as to where that direction is. But I know each of the program staff, along with myself, are going to be asking teachers at each of the section meetings as far as, do we have enough curriculum? We need more curriculum. What needs to be changed with our current curriculum? Which again, what we're talking about is mycart.com.
A couple of things on a few of the affiliates. For those that are somewhat interested in the articulation of the ISCCAI, ISCCAI only has one conference here now, their fall conference. It is October 6th and 7th up at Joliet Junior College. That is also that's our articulation as well as entire organizational conference. So especially if you are working in with any of the programs where you are involved with dual credit or articulated courses, always encouraging supporting the ISCCAI. Alumni, and if you had missed this part, because I've sat in enough of our board meetings, I'm not sure how many people. We are now the largest state alumni affiliate of any in the country by some margin, and so we're very excited for that. I know the alumni is also, and I made the announcement earlier, they're going to roll out another fundraiser this fall. It's a gun raffle. They're going to do a statewide gun raffle with the proceeds from that going to help pre-service teachers with the EdTPA cost, as well as for the advocacy fund. ILK has also set, they're continuing with their legislative as well as investment portfolio, so funding partnerships, they're pursuing that, as well as also looking to specifically help strengthen the relationships with our universities in our state, as far as universities to help hopefully support the cause that the dean just mentioned as far as some of the curriculum, and make sure that they're involved with some of that, supporting what we can do to continue to show our relevance as college preparatory as well as career readiness. So those are a few of the things on those topics as well.
Moving on, we need to look at our next meeting date. We would not meet again until January. And a year ago in January, a motion was passed by committee chairs to have January meeting be a face-to-face meeting. So that date is Saturday, January 7th. 10 a.m. Here. Well, not here.
Hopefully over there.
Yep. At the Saturday, January 7th at 10 a.m. I-based board will be meeting on
conference call.
Meeting on the 5th. CDA. After school. Yep. Additionally, just for your point of information, our next IABAT board meeting is scheduled for State Forestry. We're headed to SIU on the 24th. So if you have items that you brought up, you'll be 6 weeks into your school year. And if you have concerns at the section level, please get them to your district representative before the 24th. We'll send an email reminder out, but that'll be the next date that our board will be getting together. At that time, we'll be looking at strategic plan along with some other items. Okay.
I have one thing from committees there, Corky. We did have a committee chair meeting for and had a wonderful one. I'm sure you guys have talked about that a little bit already, or I know that it's come up. We also did open and talked as a board where the possibilities of having some committee meetings during some during some state CDEs with proper planning ahead of time, to where we don't we can't have all of them meeting in any of them, but we can better utilize some of that time where teachers will be gathering for committee work. And when we say that, I know that on the board and the time that we've been on there, we definitely need to keep the results and keep the activities coming from our committees, because when they're doing good stuff, we see a lot of progress in those respective areas. And I know see a number of you that were on the CDE committee or still are when I was on it as well, and I'd always felt like that was one of the committees doing an awful lot. We see what recruitment and retention and some of the others have really done. Please help to make that be a positive impact as well for our committee structures so organization continue to grow and flourish.
With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting portion and move into the brief in service.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed say nay. Okay, we move to in service at 3:09 p.m. folks.
As we move through in service, I will say this year feels a lot better. To be,
1 second, do we need to? Did you switch to another?
Yep.
Okay.
because it somehow stopped recording on our other one, so we're already started on the new one. So on that being said, in-service is being recorded for those, for our section presidents, because Lori is going to come in and do a presentation on CDE reports. So you and your section presidents are both aware what needs to happen with CDE reports, the timeline for those to be turned in, what information they need. We're going to record that and then take that down to the Southern meeting. And then for any section chairs that we're unable to make it, we're going to try and post recordings of the webinars for them to view as well. So real quick as we get started, I would say this year feels a lot better going into in-service than last year, since that was about my second or third week on the job. At this point in time, we kind of have an idea of what we're doing, and that's nice to know. Real quick on IVAT, FFA board, and admin flowchart. That's been something that we've passed out a couple different looking flowcharts in the past, and I think every one has confused people more than has actually helped. So if you would like a flowchart, if you're one of those people, let us know, and we'll try and find you one that's the least confusing. But for the most part, as you kind of point fingers this way and that way of who does what with FFA board and IVAT board, your FFA counterparts are dealing with everything: public speaking, Parley Pro, proficiencies, degrees. You are in charge of all other career development events. As far as advocacy goes, is there anything else you want to touch on? But I think we've covered most of it during the regular meeting portion.
So many cards.
Lori is on her way over for a brief presentation on membership structure, CDE reports. She'll also maybe cover some stuff with proficiency awards and state degree expectations. Again, emphasizing what Mindy talked about earlier, we are going to be sending out Google Forms. I took a brief look over that, and that's something we'll try and share after the meeting. It looks like it's an individual form for each student. So for each student that applies for their state degree, you would submit a Google form and then print out an entire report, have your committee member sign it, turn it back in. More information will be out on that as we get closer to time and as the state degree application is finalized. So be watching your emails for that. Corky, is there anything else that you want to cover with awards and recognition?
All of those have moved to the recognition committee. One thing that we've noticed, recognition committee needs some guidance as far as how do you write good applications, because some of the people in the recognition committee have never filled out an application for one of the NAAD ones. So if you feel like you have really strong examples of award applications that you wouldn't mind sharing, please share those and we can get them put in as PDFs. So that committee has some guidelines on what to go for. Some things the individual applicant has to apply for. So for example, if I was to apply for Agri-Science Teacher of the Year, I would have to fill out that application. But the outstanding cooperation, I had to fill it out for YBA. So some of those you need some help, you need some assistance on what to do and how to get that finished. They're also looking at putting out an updated timeline to try and get some of the boards in a little earlier before you're, it's the end of the year haze and you don't really care about anything. We're trying to move that timeline up. And please make sure as section chairs that you have an excellence in teaching award applicant from your section. We had a few that were empty. And we know we have teachers that are doing great things. So if you can have one personal mission for yourself this year, fill out a Google form to nominate somebody in your section for excellence in teaching. Pick it out in your head right now. What do you know you want it to be? And think about that for moving forward through this year. Those will all be judged during Super Friday. The committee has moved their last meeting date to that day, and it worked out really nicely. So we'll be getting together at the beginning of March to finalize who our nominations for. Maureen, membership structure. We probably reviewed the membership report, slower meetings, and I just want to clarify a few things. We need to make sure I get the section chairs all bolded, and so just bold for section 3. There are a few little issues to clear up with bookkeeping and things like that. If you review your section, if you find there are any discrepancies, just let me know. Send me an email. Like I say, we're waiting on some payments, but as we expect this time of year, so early in the year. And if you've discussed the deadlines, I can't really think of anything else. If you all have some questions, let me know.
I don't know that it has been emphasized, but we have talked about it. October 31st is the deadline, but that's the deadline to receive incentive funding grant credit for being an IVAT member. So be sure that people get their IVAT dues turned in by then. In years past, we've been collecting previous year's dues up until the next year's conference, which does create a challenge for finishing membership year totals and getting those to our affiliate organizations.
And also in the Google form, you'll see the dues breakdown sheet for IACCAI as well as IAVAT and all different options available.
Does anybody have any membership questions for Maureen while she's here?
Do you want to cover what an associate member is and who is eligible for just associate membership, even part-time or?
Associate membership is available for those people who want to support our organization. If they are not a full-time high school teacher teaching at least 50% of their classes in ag ed, they would qualify for associate. Say if they're a part-time teacher, a retired teacher, they would qualify for associate. That would also go for our university personnel who would be qualified as IAVAT associate, as well as IACCAI. Either way, with them, they have the option, as you'll see on the detailed membership breakdown sheets. So, on that, if you have any questions regarding teaching your section, what they qualify for, just have them email me, or you can email me, and we'll get that on email.
And Lori's great. I mean, we all know this. Lori does a fantastic job for us in replying to us in an incredibly fast manner. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times I've sent her an email and something back 10 minutes later. Keeping that in mind, she works incredibly hard for us, and we need to be mindful of her schedule and her timelines. So the sooner you can get something to her and encourage other people to get things to her quickly, the easier her job gets. And goodness knows we make it hard enough as possible. So if we can get membership into her and in a timely manner, I think that would be a great thing.
And if if anyone needs an invoice, I'm happy to send an invoice directly by email. We also have a letter that is encouraging that you can present to your administrator. Let all your teachers in your section know that. We're happy to provide that if that's helpful in getting the news page. So,
Do you want to cover CDE reports
sure.
briefly?
CDE reports, and also there's a sample in the Google Drive of a paper copy that all the section presidents can print out.
It's a PDF, third from the bottom, sample section CDE report for section.
Similar to this. It's helpful for your section presidents to have this when they go to the section CDE. That way they can record this information and have it all ready to put into their online report for incentive funding credit. There are several different forms, and I think Dean just stepped out, but we're working on getting those all updated. There's a sample public speaking, Parley Pro, mechanics, and ag sales are a little different, so they have a little bit different form. Just to list a few different things on here that the section presidents have to have for their report. It'd be great if you can coordinate with your section presidents on your schedule as we're working on the Google section calendars. That's going to be very helpful on keeping us all on the same page as far as when these events occur. And as soon as possible after the event, if those section presidents can get these reports submitted, it's very, very helpful. That way they can be reviewed quickly. If there are plaques to be ordered, I can take care of that. In case of land use, public speaking, Parley Pro, we order plaques. Also, for ag mechanics, it's very important that we get those results in quickly because we need to review to make sure that the eligible individuals and teams that we are aware of who they are for the state contest.
And a quick note on ag mechanics while she's brought that up. I know this was something that was kind of discussed last spring. As you plan your section dates, the state date for ag mechanics has been set, and we realize that there are some of the section contests that can't help but occur until after that deadline for results to be due. But realize that the new process and policy is that if your section contest is held after that deadline, it is your responsibility as a section to pre-register who you're going to send on from the section level, and it is your section's responsibility to then pay those pre-registration dues if the teams don't show up. Because we do have to give Parkland numbers for that contest so that they have materials to prepare. So if any of you have invoices still out there for that, that is why. If you have any questions, let us know. But the old process was kind of any team had to pre-register, and if their section contest wasn't until after that deadline, there were multiple teams that were pre-registering, paying, and then never got anything out of it. So we have changed that process as well.
Something to remind your section presidents too is, I don't know how many you have the situation, but sometimes in the section assembly goes 2 events at the same time. Make sure that they are clearly, that they know, the student knows who is actually hosting the event, so that schools get credits for hosting an event. You know, because like Seneca usually comes and does dairy products at Mendoza. But the section president doesn't pay attention, just puts it in Mendoza. The media is hosting both of those. They won't be credited in incentive funding and stuff like that. It's something you may want to just remind them of when you have any of those dual contests, just so that you're not, you know, Ken Rutter's not calling or complaining with you. It's incentive funding grant and doesn't have any credit for hosting dairy products. You know, that helps alleviate some of those headaches too. The students don't necessarily always think about it.
That's a great point. Yeah. Yeah, communication is just really, really important between the host site, you all as chairs, and your section presidents.
Okay. Anything else on items A through F on our in-service? Any questions for Lori?
I have a question, Lori. If we just submitted the chapter contest, like our section do a green hand level, starter level, and a chapter. And if we're only doing the chapter level, and say I participate with just a green hand team, you would know that I got to participate. Would that affect my incentive funding grants? We did have a few this year that just participated in that. They didn't participate in the chapter level contest. They just bought a green hand. So,
Chapter level.
say if I have agronomy and we have 3 different divisions, the section president only submits in the chapter level. So if I,
Let's say varsity.
let's say varsity, but then they participate in green hand, would I get incentive funding grants for that? 'Cause I think the way I'm understanding, Quincy might be doing a lot of green hand division only this year. So I want to make sure,
You just need to come on the report.
just make
And
sure.
at the very bottom, just as long as they were listed as a school that participated.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Right, so then-
It's kind of like proficiency.
Or not the case.
One of these were important to highlight is your section to check that, and to check the incentive funding grant ahead of the deadline to make sure that everything's going as it should be. Because mistakes get made.
Yes, that's great.
One important thing for partly pro and not partly pro. I was finding last year there was a little bit of confusion on that as a division. There is a separate form, a separate report form for the section presidents to fill out for a novice partly pro event. But it does have to be novice, and they need to, the host site needs to be aware of the difference, that it must be freshmen and younger competing in that contest. There are other divisions. You can do a Partly Pro report for a green hand or a JV, and those may be older students, but novice Partly Pro must be freshmen.
Anything else? Lori?
I have a question. I noticed last year I was looking over what was sent, and there's things like they call it, like they don't call it dairy speeches, they call it dairy product evaluation. Are these like, do they correspond with the actual state contest name?
I believe it's called milk.
Milk
products.
Yeah, that's what it is.
We try to align more with national,
Okay.
but that doesn't always mean that's what it's called at the section level.
Okay. I was a little curious because I think that was one that they're like, what is this milk product one? And I'm like, that's dairy.
Yes.
So I didn't know if they knew what each one of those really were.
I think that's what we touched on this briefly
Okay.
at the next council meeting,
Yeah.
and then in more detail later. Just
Okay.
a very brief overview because we're not really ready to input any of these events yet.
Right.
The system has not been cleared yet for that, but we will make sure we make that.
Moving on with our in-service section fair.
The big important thing to realize, work with your fair managers right now. We're working with the Department of Ag. The allotments did come out for last year, and so almost all those reports have come back in. But realize if you did not submit a report within 30 days of the fair the first time, you're not eligible to get that funding. And there's not much that we can do, and there's not much that the Department of Ag can do to get you that funding. If you didn't submit the report the first time and you submitted a full report now this summer, thanks for submitting the report, but there won't be any money that comes for it. So that being said, as you go throughout the next year, make sure you submit the reports with all zeros so that if and when allocation money comes up next year, that fair is eligible to receive funding. So the process we're going through right now, I think we have 1 or 2 more sections to finish sending in their fair reports from this last year. As soon as all the fair reports are in from this last year, the Department of Ag is going to calculate the totals, how much we're going to spend out all in all, figure out the pro rata amount for next year, and then we'll change over the system. So another thing to take note of is if you've had 2016, 2017 fairs that have already taken place, again, make sure you get those in within 30 days. But if you want to wait another week or two, if you can wait a week or two and still be within that 30 days, that's kind of what I would suggest right now, because then you may only have to submit the report with the pro rata once we figure out the pro rata amount. And also our system will only print official reports for 1 fiscal year at a time. So right now the system is still printing reports as is it's a 2015-2016 fair. And then once we have all those reports in, we'll switch over the system. So if you've submitted any before this point, that's all right. Make sure it's in by the 30-day deadline. We may have to go back in and change those reports a little bit so it's an official 2016-2017 report. And we realize that this is not the best of circumstances, but it's what we're dealing with, and we've got money now, so we're trying to work with it as we can. Are there any questions about section fares?
Will that make the allocation go up with a few fairs not using their?
It would make the pro rata go up. So the pro rata is the amount left over from year before. Allocation will be based on budget for next year, so who knows if and when. But again, make sure you submit the report the first time within 30 days of the fair. Otherwise, you're not eligible. And I hate to see that for a couple sections this year that didn't submit the reports. But the Department of Ag is not budging on that one. Any other questions on section fairs? If not, deadlines we've already kind of discussed. Pretty well similar to previous years. Let us know if you have any questions on those. Constitution, there is a copy of the current state level IVAT Constitution on ivat.org. But the other thing that we would encourage you to do is make sure that your section Constitution is up to date. Make sure you have a copy of your section Constitution. And if you're unsure of that, make sure the state office has a current copy of your Constitution. Because as there are any issues at the section level that we get a call about, it's nice for us to be able to go back and reference your section Constitution, because we are not in the business of overturning any rulings or policies of the section, but that means we need to know what your rulings and your policies are to make sure that we can enforce those and support those. So try and make sure your section Constitution is up to date and that we have a copy of that. Any questions there? Ag issues, intent to participate, that will go through your district IVAT directors again. It will be attached to the ag issues rules. I believe this last year was due April 1st, April 15th, somewhere around in there. That timeline will be fairly similar, so if you have any chapters in your section wanting to compete in ag issues, make sure they turn in an intent form to their district director. If you have emails, the submitting request for district emails, I would say wait for a little while because we haven't had the district director in service yet to give them access to send district emails. But soon each of them will have their own accounts on MailChimp that they can send out messages to the district or to, don't know if we'll have access to individual sections, but we also have to get in the new teacher database, which has just been turned over and being worked on now. So as soon as those are kind of settled in a little bit, the district directors will have access to send out emails. So if you have any emails that need to go out, go through your district director for that. Or if you have a state level email that needs to go out, please let us know and we can handle that. Section meetings, if you haven't submitted your date, time, or location yet, please let us know, let your FK advisor know so that we can make sure we know when that's going to be. And ILK members are hoping to get around to some of the section meetings. So if you have an ILK member come by, don't be surprised there. They're hoping to get some brainstorming discussion going on with teachers in their area. And I think Mindy covered national chapter judging. We've already covered kind of our summer conference, and we'll cover that more at the January meeting. How's that for brief?
All right.
Any questions for the good cause? Anything from anyone?
On that national chapter judging at the national level, they take recommendations each spring for the summer judging of National Agri-Science Fair, National Chapter Award, and National Proficiency. If you are someone who is interested in that, or you know someone who might be interested, what that would entail is basically a Sunday through Thursday or Friday out in Indianapolis judging applications, and you get to see what the process looks like at the national level. So if you're interested or know someone who is, please let us know.
Lori, did you have anything else?
Thank you very much for coming to Springfield today. Thank you to those of you who are staying over to help with our beginning advisors workshop. And I hope you enjoyed the last beautiful days of board members, if you can stay put for a second, and Mark, I need to see you.
Further exercise, Mike.